Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of the AI Playbook with 33A. Today I have Jörg Winterhoff with me. Hi and welcome, Jörg.
Hi, it's very, very nice to be here. Super excited to dive into the conversation with you and let's see where it takes us.
I would like to start with the question, why should businesses care about AI?
So I think, first of all, AI is here and AI is not going to go away anymore. So that's a fact, right? There's been a lot of hype. AI is not a new thing. It's been here for since the 1960s, I guess, maybe even a little bit before that. But now there's been a lot of hype around it. But I believe this hype kind of goes away and is replaced by probably more mainstream. So it's not going to go away anymore. Well, and then I think, yeah, we have this, or you probably know this. There's this statement which says AI is not going to replace you, but someone using AI will. So I think that's very true. I just think companies should really start looking into it. And that doesn't mean starting huge, let's say 6, 7 figure projects. That's probably not the way how to do it. We probably talk about that a little bit later also. But just diving into it and get a feeling for it and try to understand how it can be relevant for the unique business context they're in, the industry or the business that they're running. So yeah, in short, it's something you can't ignore anymore, and you just need a way to make this adoption or to make this to approach this in a way that you can make sense of. I think that's important, and that's something that you and me and that we work on.
All right, now that we got some context, I would like to hear about your story and how you got into the AI world and the 33A methodology. And what motivated you?
So maybe I quickly start with me, just very, very briefly. So I'm a husband. I'm a dad of two young kids, 5 and 7 years old. I'm also a singer. That's what I do in my spare time. Very like being on stage and make music. But business related, I'm different things. I'm a consultant in the area of digitalization or in tech, adopting tech. I also am a keynote speaker, and I'm an entrepreneur. Just started a company. So there's a lot of things going on. The story about how I got into, well, there's no real story how I got into AI. That's quite simple. I'm just a very tech savvy person, a little bit tech enthusiast. I just found it quite interesting. Of course, when the hype started with ChatGPT, I looked into it a lot more than before that. But even before that, I kind of knew what was going on, working with big data. And I used to work at a former employee with the data scientists who were trying to find certain patterns in data. So that, I touched AI a little bit. The story about how I got into the AI design sprint is a little bit longer, to be honest. I I went on a trip around the world with my family, starting on the 8th of August 2022. And for that, we put on our backpacks and boarded the train here in Hanover, Germany. The the plan was to not just have a long vacation, but to actually, work on the road. So we didn't want to make a vacation. We just wanted to shift our lives onto the road with, with work, with family, and of course, traveling, seeing the world. So I quit my employment job. I said, well, I was already facilitating design sprints. So the normal Google design sprints. And I thought, well, that's cool. That's something that creates value for companies, and you can do that remotely. So let's do that. And I started my agency Sprint Studio, and I offered that to my network And I was super naive because I thought, who needs marketing, who needs sales and all that stuff? I have a good network and I have something that creates value. So, hey, let's go. So I started in September with that. And quite fast, I came to the realization that that's not going to work as easy as I thought. So it was a process trying to then you say, well, it's not me, it's the, I don't know, it's the economy right now, or it's the companies are not ready for that yet. You try to find things that how you can explain that. And at some point I realized, okay, it is me. I can't clearly articulate what's the value of that, and I can't really articulate what problems I'm solving. So it was a very, design sprints. It's super broad. You can do products, you can do strategy, you basically do anything. You solve any problem. But that didn't work regarding my positioning and the marketing and sales. In already in September, so when we just started out, it's funny, I always remember when I had certain phone calls or remote calls with Mike, and I remember where we were. So I was on the Azores at that point with my family, looking over the Atlantic, and I talked to Mike for the first time, I think through LinkedIn. I can't really remember why. And I think I joined an experience session, and I kind of got a first feeling for it. And then we talked, and I remember I made the decision, I don't want to be distracted. I want to focus on the design sprint. So I'm not going to look into the AI design sprint. I just, I want to focus. Stupid looking at it from my point of view now. So I kept on trying my design sprint business, and it didn't work. And roughly about half a year later, I spoke to Mike again. At that time we were in Argentina, and I was a lot more interested because back then I thought, let's use the AI design sprint to get into the client's door, right? Because AI is a hype topic now. ChatGPT by now was out in public, and AI is super hyped, and everyone wants to do it. So let's use that to kind of have an introduction to the company. And when you are doing business with them, you have their trust, and then you can also do your design sprints, which I was initially planning on doing. That changed pretty fast, that I went all in into the AI design sprint, because what I understood quite fast, because my whole career I was bridging the gap between business and technology. That's what I always did as a consultant. In innovation, I did that. And also with AI, I'm doing that now. So it was super clear for me that that's a super nice and very, very smart tool to bridge this gap between the business side and the tech world. And that's the first thing that I really liked. And the second thing I really liked is, of course, the cards, right? Not just because they look nice and because it's just fun to work with them, but to me it was the moment I saw them, it was clear that it's a super easy and nice way to make AI accessible to people who have no idea about the technology, and they don't really need to understand why this technology works as it works. They just need to understand what is it able to do. And this is the two main reasons why I got into deeper conversations. By now I'm running AI design sprints. I'm training and certify other people as a AI design sprint facilitators. I'm running sessions together with Mike, and now we're talking. So that's the longer story about how I found the AI design sprint, or how it found me. I don't know how I got to know Mike, and yeah, that was the journey there.
Sounds like it was easier to find clients for the AI design sprint. Was it easier to pitch?
It's not, well, I thought it's easier because it's AI. The reason why I think it's a lot easier now is because I'm solving a very specific problem. So, and that's why it's a lot easier to articulate. I remember a phone call with a good friend, a very, very good friend of mine, when business wasn't working, and it was about the design sprint, the Google design sprint. And he said, well, super nice methodology. He didn't know it. It sounds like a very, very nice approach. It's fast and it's engaging. But what problems are you solving? And I said to him, well, you tell me, right? Do you have strategic problems? Do you have products that are not working? Do you have anything? Just throw it at me, and I have the tool set to solve it. And he said, well, you know what? That's not going to work. I can't pitch it internally. I can't get any budget for something like that. That's not going to work. And I think that's why the main reason why it's easier to explain the value of the AI design sprint is not because it's AI. Of course, that helps. I'm not going to lie about that, but because we are solving a very, very specific problem. That's the reason.
Yeah, it's difficult when you have a product that you like. This product can solve many of your problems, and the other one's like, uh, what does that mean exactly?
Well, oftentimes people just don't even know what their problem is, right? They have their daily business, their rat race, and then they don't really know what is their problem. So yeah, that didn't work.
So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced while adapting this methodology, and how did you overcome them?
I think I think the biggest challenge is to convince the people that are sitting in, let's say someone approached you from some company, and you convinced them and they think it's a very good idea, and you say, okay, let's do an AI design sprint, and they gather a team, and so you start and you sit in a room with the team, or remotely. Doesn't make a big difference. And this is usually a team that's business experts, because that's what we work with business experts, and specifically not with tech experts, because that's the business driven approach or the business centric approach. So I like to make the example. Let's say it's an HR team, so people who are recruiting other people, and who are thinking about personal development for employees. And now they are sitting in a session where they are supposed to come up with ideas and solutions for AI. And what I usually experience is they sit in the session, they look at you, it's the very start of the workshop, and you can see from their looks that they're saying, like, what the world am I doing here? What the world am I supposed to be doing here? I have no idea about AI. So the biggest challenge, I think, is to guide them into the workshop, um, while still motivating them to do that. So what I put a lot of emphasis on expectation management and onboarding these people, so they feel valued, they feel heard, they kind of know what's going on. I tell them, you don't need to understand anything about AI. Even if you don't know what AI means, like artificial intelligence, what AI means, that's fine, right? You don't need to know anything. And if you've done the onboarding and you've done that, and people are in the workshop or in the session, they don't have a lot of time to think about anything, because it's highly structured, it's super fast paced. We're putting time pressure on them on purpose, of course, and so they don't have a lot of time to think while they work. And then when they are through with their work, let's say at the end of the day, they kind of, they lean back and they take a deep breath. Oh, gosh, we're done. And they look at the results. And to me, that's always the coolest moment. They're like, gosh, I didn't know that I was able to come up with an AI solution concept that's actually creating value for my work, like for the work that I'm doing every day, like in my unique business scenario. I didn't know that I was able to do that. And that's always a very, very cool moment. But I would say that is probably the biggest challenge. At least it's to me. And I think it's super important, running the session. Mike or 33A has done an amazing job, because you just go through step by step by step. Every step in the process is defined. You practice 1, 2, 3 times, and then you kind of know how to run something like that. But the part before that, to actually set up the room and set up the people, set up the atmosphere to have an amazing session, I think that is extremely important, to not have challenges later in the process. If you do the job good before running the workshop is going to be very smooth, because people kind of know what they're going through. Yeah. Another example, I tell them they will be out of their comfort zone. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of at what point in the process, right? There will be time pressure, there will be things that they're like, oh gosh, I don't know about that, and I want to think about this a little bit more. And I tell them that up front. Tell them, you will be out of your comfort zone during the process at some point, and even that helps to make the workshop session, or to make the session a little bit easier, because people do not freak out because they expected it.
Could you share a success story or case study where you use the methodology and yeah,
Yeah,
it played a
I,
crucial role?
I do have one. It was a project or an AI design sprint that I like very much. First of all, it was a quite small company, and it was also a company in an industry where people would probably not expect that they actually think about AI. So it was a car dealership, quite small company, in Western Germany. I don't know, like 50 people, mechanics, salespeople, and the um, the founder of the company, or the owner of the company, quite innovative guy. So digitalization played a big role in his company, and he had a very clear challenge in mind that he wanted to solve, and he saw that I do something with AI, and he wanted to explore if this is something that we can solve through AI. So we talked a little bit, and the problem they had was, I need to paint the picture real quick, so you understand a little bit better. So of course they sell cars, but they also do maintenance for cars, so they repair cars. So whenever a client comes in and has an issue, like there's a flashing light in the dashboard, or there's some kind of weird noise that the car makes, or whatever, so people either call, or they write an email, or they come into the dealership and they tell something is not working. And they can, even if they find out what the problem is, like what they have to fix, they can't just start repairing it, because it's about warranty things. They need to do the repairing based on step by step repair instructions by the manufacturer of the car. And these PDFs are just a long list of like 350 or 400 PDFs, and the manufacturer doesn't even give them the possibility to have like a search field to search for, like, let's say, keywords or something like that. So whenever they knew what they have to do, they have to go through that list of, let's say, 400. I don't know the number anymore. Go through the list and find that repair instruction manual before they can start working. And that took a lot of time, first of all. And it was something, of course, that the mechanics and also the salespeople, the customer support people, hated doing, because it doesn't create value, right? You don't want to do that. So what we came up with, and today it's nothing innovative anymore. It's just a very simple AI-based chatbot, so these people can just start talking to this data. So you just throw in the challenge or the problem that the client has, like flashing light here and weird noise here, there, and the AI just gives you a collection of, let's say, 3, 4, 5 different files out of that 400, because AI understands the context, understands the semantics of the text, and gives you a very small collection of potential PDFs that you need. And that helped them in so many different ways. Now, first of all, of course, they needed less time to do to fix the car, because they saved like 1-2 hours to find this file. They increased the satisfaction of employees because they don't have to do that anymore, and that is huge, right? This is forgotten a lot of times, but they don't have to do tedious, repetitive, stupid work. It's stupid work, right? It doesn't create value. So they increase increase the employee satisfaction, and also the clients liked it a lot, because plus minus, they received their car back repaired roughly a day earlier than before. And a day is a day, right? A day is a day. They don't need a rental car. And so, yeah, that helped them a lot. That was one really nice project that I did. I did work with mechanics, right? We had an AI design sprint, and mechanics were sitting in that, and they kind of liked it. It was the same as my example earlier with the HR people, but same thing. They kind of looked at me like, I repair cars and you do AI. What in the world? So that's one case study, or one thing that I did in the past. Another thing that's coming up that I just find really interesting, I just can't talk about it yet because it's coming up in the future, is an AI design sprint with a team from a public administration of a city, of a city. And that is I've worked with companies, and I do think public administrations work a little bit differently like companies. So I'm very, very curious what I'm going to learn when I run it with them. So I think that if we talk again in, I don't know, 6 months or a year, like follow-up podcast episode or something, I probably would love to also talk about that, because I think it's a very, very interesting use case.
Let's definitely do that.
Yeah.
Sounds really interesting indeed. Have you seen successful examples of chatbots that give you the answer and provide the reference? So in this case, they would ask, okay, the problem is this, um, and then the chatbot gives the answer instead of you having to read through.
Well, in this example, well, that's something that they were quite surprised about. The requirement was, we need something that helps us search through this data. So of course the AI said it's this document that you can look into. But what also happened, since we were using large language models, what they were super surprised about was that the AI additionally gave them, based on the documents it found, it already gave them the instructions.
Ah,
So a
okay, it did.
follow-up, if yeah, it automatically does that. If it finds, it looks into the pool of information, it kind of finds the things that you're looking at, and then it, of course, it knows what's in the document, so it automatically gives you a summary of, first do this, then do that, then do that. And if it's not spot on, if it's not right, you can still start a conversation, right? You say, well, good starting point, but there's also this, and it doesn't really fit the problem because we also saw this, and then you kind of get into a conversation. And when they saw that you can actually talk with this AI, and they didn't know that before, we kind of extended the scope. It's not implemented yet, but I thought it's a super nice idea. So when the mechanics start working and do the repairing, they wanted to interact with the AI and kind of ask questions, so they don't have to, go to the laptop, look into the PDF, and then what's the next step. And then we thought, well, they have gloves and they have oily hands. They can't use a laptop, right? If they are working on the car. So we extended the solution by saying they will have headphones and they will actually talk. I don't have my cards here now, but AI talks. No, not AI. AI listens. AI listens. So you talk to the AI and say, now I need to, I don't know, I have this model here and I need to refill some oil. What's the quantity I need to put into this? Something like that. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. But so that's an extension to the initial solution that we had. So yes, the AI already gave a concrete answer. And based on that, they said, well, if that's the case, then let's think a little bit bigger than just talking to the data and just get the documents back,
That's
which I
very
thought
cool.
is quite a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Innovative for a car dealership or a mechanic shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what feedback have you received from the clients?
Of course, when we explain what we do, when we explain what the AI design sprint does, they're kind of like, yeah, okay, understand that. Let's try. But afterwards, I always get the feedback, wow, I didn't know it's possible to do it this fast. Like, speed is, I think, something super nice. We've done this car dealership AI design sprint remotely because at that time I was in Norway. So, it was all on our travels. So we had Azores, we had Argentina, now I was in Norway. So we did that remotely. And they were quite skeptical about, is it possible to do something like that when we actually work in a kind of workshop environment? Is it possible to do that remotely? And the feedback afterwards of the owner, who was also part, of course, of the workshop, was, wow, I didn't know it's possible, because he was extremely surprised in a very positive way by the quality of the results that you can achieve in a remote environment. So that is something that people feedbacked. And of course, the story that I told you about, this surprise that non-tech people are able to come up with AI solution concepts. That is always something extremely surprising to people, because they just didn't know. You just need to give them the right tools. And with the right tools, they're able to do that. But they just don't expect that. They don't expect that they're able to come up with something like that, being a mechanic, being a HR employee, being marketing person, whatever. So that's also something that's feedbacked. Yeah.
Hmm. When it comes to the solutions, the AI solutions, do you see them being adapted later in general with your clients?
That's a good question. I work with an implementation partner, and this question also comes up in the AI design sprint boot camps that we're running, and when we are looking at the tech part, the last, the tech check, and how are we implementing the prototype. So that's a quite common question. The rate of adopting AI, excuse me, adopting it, like basically turning the prototype into a scalable solution, is actually a lot lower. And I think there's different reasons. First of all, of course, it will be a little bit more money than just running an AI design sprint and having a prototype. Why is that? Well, because the prototype is not meant to be used in a productive environment. You only want to have something tangible and something you can use to answer some questions, to get a little bit more information about, is this idea that we had working? Is it actually creating value for us? But that's not enough to scale it for the whole company, so all of the employees can use it, and you're not running it on some test server of an implementation company, but you run it, either in the cloud or whatever. Yes, money is an issue, but you have a very, very good foundation for making better and more informed decisions about investing this money or not. It's not just a gut feeling anymore. You have concrete information, either from clients, from your employees. So you have a lot better information to make informed decisions. So, but not only the money, I think the biggest issue is that they don't have the resource to do it. And I'm not talking about the AI experts. I'm talking about, you do need some resources in the company, the some project manager, for example, or some people from the departments that are testing something. So they do need resources if they want to have a bigger project, and that's something they never have. And they're not saying I'm not doing it. A lot of times they're saying, okay, I know it makes sense. It makes sense to do it, but I can't do it right now because we have like a million other things going on right now. So they kind of put it into the future, and then something happens, which is happening to all of us. You kind of lose grip. It's you kind of shift it, and there's probably never a good or right time to do something. You just have to do it at some point. And a lot of times that's not happening because business and life kind of comes into the way again. So the rate is a lot lower than um, the rate that people say, well, yes, I have a prototype and I'm going to turn it into a real project. I don't have a number, but I haven't seen a lot.
Do you have any ideas on how the adoption rate could increase?
Hmm.
That doesn't depend on money, because that sounds like it's the biggest problem.
I don't think money is the biggest problem. I think time is the biggest problem.
Time,
I think time and the time of
resources.
the people, time and resource, right? Of course, money is also a resource, but the resource time is the biggest problem. And to solve that is quite hard. I think the only way you can solve that is with priorities. So in the end, it comes down to the decision maker um, making the decision. This is a priority for us. It's going to create value. Why would you do AI? There's different reasons. I think it's not only increasing efficiency of processes, that would save you some time. Um, that would probably, save some costs or make you some more revenue, something like that. So, there's probably an ROI case for that, but it also create, and that's not measurable so nicely. As I said in my use case, it increases employee satisfaction, which is something super nice, but you can't really measure it in terms of what's my. It also can increase customer satisfaction. So in the end, it's just a decision. The pain needs to be really big,
Mm.
and at some point, the pain is big enough, and at that point, people make the decision, say, okay, it does make sense. I need to do this. My people are already working 120%. I would like to have them back to 100% because I don't find anyone else who can, we have this shortage of skilled labor problem, not only in Germany, but probably throughout Europe, maybe even worldwide. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of priorities.
Yeah. From your clients, have you seen most doing the AI design sprint for processes or products?
That's easy to answer. It's process automation. So
Mm.
when you work with companies and with decision makers in companies, if it's not a product owner, right, or a head of product, but a lot of times it's head of HR or head of other departments, and they are interested in um, increasing the efficiency of their operational business, and that's what you would use the AI process automation workshop for. Um, Not everyone is also doing the AI opportunity mapping. So, for example, my use case, we skipped that because the owner had a very clear idea of what's his problem or what's the challenge. And he said, no, let's not, uh, kind of find other things. I want to focus on that, and I want to have an idea can be done here. And maybe sometime in the future, we kind of open up and look at other areas of the company too. But we haven't done it there. For the public administration team that I'm going to be working with, they will start with opportunity mapping, but also for them, they don't have a real product. Of course, they are servicing the government businesses or issues, but they don't have really a product. So they also would do a process automation. Yeah, long story short, most of like, to be very honest, I ran boot camps for the products and services, but I've never run an AI design sprint products and services with a client who wanted to either transform a product through AI, or come up with an even new product, like more this innovation approach, like come up with a new product or a new service based on AI. So I haven't done that.
Do you see most companies already having an idea on where they would like to implement AI?
No, not at all. Usually, actually, that's probably their biggest question in mind. They see AI everywhere, right? In the media, on social media, everyone talks about it. Like all networking events and all events, you talk about AI. It's like everywhere. And the big problem they have is that a lot of times it's this very tech-driven tech slang, tech language that you encounter when you talk about AI, large language models, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and, these tech slang. And if it's a business decision maker, they have no idea to translate this into relevance for their business. So they don't really know how can that be relevant for my business. So the biggest question they have is, where should I start? Where does it make sense to start? Where do I have the biggest impact, and where does it make most sense for me to start something like that? So we usually start with a quick AI opportunity mapping. Sometimes we skip the ideation. So, the opportunity mapping is not only identifying the area where you can start or where it makes sense to start, but there's optionally also this area where you can already think. It's this strategic workshop with C-levels usually, or with decision makers. Like, you have this satellite view, and you can optionally, of course, work with them and say, okay, let's already try to come up with some solutions for this area. But I made the experience that the solutions they come up with, because they're the C-level, that they're the management team, and then you go into a process automation workshop and you again ideate about how can we come up with AI solutions for a certain process in that area. And if you already tell the team in the process automation workshop, look, this is the solutions that the management team came up with, then you're narrowing the scope, because then they think, if the management team said that's a good solution, that's probably a good solution, right? So I a lot of times when I know they want to do opportunity mapping and process automation and then also come up with a prototype, I either skip the ideation in the AI opportunity mapping, or I'm not going to tell the team what the management team came up with what solutions they came up with. So they have, an open green field and they can just start thinking from scratch. So yeah, the biggest answer they want to have is where to start.
Yeah. So usually the requests come from top down. It's not the employees that are like, I want to learn how to use AI, or how is it?
I I think it's a mix. I think you're coming from both sides. Of course, since AI is so prominent right now, people see this tool on LinkedIn and they're like, "Oh, cool, that could help me." So they start dabbling with this tool and try things, and then they think about how can I include that into maybe my process. But that's not a very structured approach, right? That can help, of course. That can probably create value, But if you're the, let's say, the owner or the department head, and you have a broader view on your team or on your company, you want to know, is that the biggest potential I have, or are there maybe other areas that we haven't looked at now, and maybe there's someone who's not so tech savvy and who's not so, let's say, innovative, and he's not trying around with things, but maybe that's an area where we have even more potential. So I think it's both directions, that employees try things out, and they play around with AI, and they maybe have some ideas already, but then you want to have the structured, or the more structured, and more satellite view on the whole company, and try to find out if that is the right idea that they started working on, or if there are other areas that they also want to start think about at least. um, yeah, so I think, it's both, it's coming from the top as well as from the bottom.
What advice would you give to other professionals that are considering to adopt the AI design sprint methodology?
So, of course, this is my personal view, and it's a very, of course, biased view. I'm not going to lie about that. You should s- at least look into an AI design sprint, because, in my opinion, um, you can't really lose. There's no way you can lose if you do something like that. And let me explain that a little bit. As I already said, AI is going to play a crucial role in companies and businesses, by, in processes and products and services. And this business-centric, or this human-centered approach that the AI design sprint has, I think a lot of business people can relate to that, because, it so often when I tell them, don't come from the technology side, come from the business side. You first need to know what's the problem that you want to solve. And then you think about what's a good AI solution concept to solve the biggest problem that I have. And then you have something that really creates value for you. And that just makes sense to business people, right? So the next thing is, in a very short amount of time during an AI design sprint, you already come up with a very tangible thing. It's not a concept. I keep saying concept, but it's a tangible thing. It's a prototype, right? You can use it, you can test it. So you have a very tangible result in the end. And the result, when you're testing a prototype, there's three outcomes. The first outcome is the tests are positive. It's working. So the hypothesis that you had, I don't know, I want to save this and that amount of time, whatever the question was that you wanted to answer with a prototype, but the answer is yes, it's going to help my business. So then you have a very good foundation, as I said earlier, to make a decision about scaling that. It's not gut feeling anymore. It's a based and a very informed decision, because you have data, right? You have experience. That's the first outcome. So you win. The second outcome is the tests of the prototype are negative. The result is not working. The quality is not good enough. It's not saving me, I don't know, 2 hours. It's only saving me 15 minutes. Well, this doesn't really make sense. So, whatever reason the outcome is, it's not going to work. Well, also a win. Why? Because you did spend a little bit of money for the AI design sprint, and you invested a little bit of time, but you were able to kill a project like that very early. You didn't invest a whole lot of money, you didn't invest a whole lot of resources and a whole lot of time with a huge project. You were able to learn this very, very early in the process. So that's the second outcome. You win. And the third one is something in between. It's not working, is not working. So you just do an iterate, you kind of adjust it a little bit, you kind of tweak it a little bit, and then you kind of go back and test again. But then again, it's working or it's not working. At some point, it's working or not. So in the end, you can't really lose. And that's why I would say to everyone out there in the business world, you can't ignore AI. And if you want to have a good overview or a good feeling about where is AI really creating value in the specific business context that these people are in, then this is just a very, very good approach to actually do that.
And what advice do you have for consultants such as yourself?
Oh, um, what advice would I have for consultants? Well, the answer is not so different. Um, it's rather this approach not coming from the tech side, but rather coming from the business side. That is, yeah, I think that's crucial, also crucial. So if you are out there and you're trying to help companies with AI, of course, if you are an AI expert and you know how to program things like that and you know how to implement stuff like that, that's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about, let's say, facilitators who are running workshops and who would also like to run workshops in the space of AI. In that case, it's a lot of investment that you have to do upfront to build the knowledge, to be an expert, and to be able to implement things like that. The investment to build the knowledge to run a session like this is quite small. It's not so hard to run a session like that. As I said earlier, there's a step-by-step approach. It's very structured. The resources for that are there. The cards are ready to use. So it's super simple. And advice that I would also give is do not, even though it's AI, do not do the same mistake I've done. Do not underestimate positioning, sales, and marketing. So it's a lot harder to sell it and to explain what the value is than actually running an engaging session. Running it, yes, practice it 1, 2, 3 times. You can go. Selling it is different. Find the right audience, find the right messaging, and that's what I always point out in the boot camps that we ran in the past and also in the future. Selling, marketing, positioning is crucial for consultants.
Hmm. Anything that you have learned on that topic that you would like to share?
Well,
That has
the
worked with
first
you for you?
the first thing is do it. I mean, do it, right? Think about sales and think about marketing. I was When I was a consultant in my early career days, learned to hate the salespeople. It's a strong word, but I really thought, gosh, why? Because they sold things, and me as a consultant who went then to the client had to clean up things, right? Because the client thought, hey, your salesperson said you're able to do this and that, and it's included in the budget. And then I'm like, well, the software can't do it. We need to have a change request here. So I learned to really not like this area of sales. And when I started my own company or my own agency, I didn't like to do it. And even until today, no, I have to put on my sales hat sometimes. It's not my favorite thing to do, right? And again, gosh, again, I forgot the question. Please, Ellie.
Any learnings that you've had on the topic of marketing?
Yes, yes, yes. Gosh, I'm talking so much that I keep forgetting the question. So I do have quite a concrete learning about how I approached it. Because in the very beginning, when I started marketing the AI design sprint, I talked about AI related challenges that my target audience might have. So this could be, I don't know, I don't know where to start. This could be, I'm overwhelmed by all this tech slang. This could be, what's the ROI for a project like that? Or maybe, I don't have a structured approach to approach AI. So this is, the very AI related challenges they have. And I was trying to explain the value of the AI design sprint, that it can solve that, of course. And that's true, right? They do have these questions, and that is challenges that they have, but it's not the relevant challenges. It's not the challenges that are creating pain for them. Their real challenges are the business related challenges. So I don't find people for this and that position. I have so much work. I need more people. I don't find the people. I want to stay ahead of my competition. My clients maybe have changing or new expectations about products and services, fragile supply chains, or, global crisis. That is the problems that business owners or people in business have. I changed the messaging and I said, don't look at AI as a completely new project that you are starting. It's nothing new, right? It's not a standalone new project that you do. It's much more a super powerful tool set that you can use to solve the problems that you are working on anyway. Because, they are trying to think about solutions for all of these problems that I just mentioned. And AI is just a very nice way to look at all of these. There's for everything that I just said, there's probably a way that AI can help with that. So, it's a quite small change in perspective, but this changed a lot because you need to find the real pains, the real pressing challenges that your potential clients have. And that's not, I don't know where to start with AI. That's, where do I find people for my business so I can get all the work done. And AI can be, don't maybe just think about how do I set up my new, I don't know, recruitment campaign. Maybe think about how I can use AI to make your processes more efficient so the people that I already have can maybe do more work in the same amount of time. Yeah, that changed a lot for me. And that raised the chance of people saying, yes, this makes a lot of sense, and let's look into this.
Amazing. Thank you, Jörg. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything else you would like to share?
Yeah, maybe one thing, because in the let's say in the talks with potential clients, but also when I start AI design sprint workshops, I always point out that I think there's a misconception. When people hear AI, they automatically hear automation. And what I think is extremely important is, at least that's my, or I know also our approach and also 33A's approach, AI is nothing that should completely automate things and replace humans. AI should be something that is augmenting this, that's augmenting human tasks, and that's, supporting the day-to-day work that humans are doing. So AI should not make decisions. AI should give me more information or maybe make suggestions for certain decisions. And the decisions are always done by humans. You don't have to look into a lot of data, so you can be a lot faster. But if you have an AI that gives you certain recommendations, you just have to kind of go through and say, yes, that makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. Yes, that makes sense. No, this doesn't make sense. So you are faster, your job is easier, and you can get more work done. But I want to kind of remove this perception in the heads of business, or in the heads of people in general. AI is not for automating everything and replacing us. It's just a very nice and sweet way of making our lives and our work a lot better than it is now.
very good closing line. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you.
tuning in to AI Playbook with 33A.
Thank you very much for having me. And I didn't know the title of the podcast yet, so I very much like that. Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it very much, and talk to you very soon, hopefully.
Yes, see you next time.
Bye.